right, everyone. And now we're going to be cutting over to our interview with Gates McFadden to be talking again with her about Gates McFadden Investigates Who Do You Think You Are? Her new podcast from the Cellcast Studios, where she just is going to be talking with her friends from the next generation, her cast and crew mates from the next generation, Jonathan Frakes, LeVar Burton, Brent Spiner, Will Wheaton, Denise Crosby,
Michael Dorn,
John Delancey, just to name a few.
Yeah.
But again, that's Gates' show. We strongly advise you check it out. Again, Gates McFadden Investigates. Who Do You Think You Are? Available anywhere you get your podcasts. So without further ado, let's just cut over to our interview with Gates McFadden. Gates, I want to thank you so much for being back on the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here. There were so many things I didn't get to ask the first time, and now I'm going to get to ask them. So thank you so much for being back.
My pleasure. Let's do this.
How have you been? I think the last time we talked to you was around Halloween and pandemic in full swing.
just before the election.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
it was, wasn't it? Things are a lot different now. How have you been?
Well, less stressed because that was a stressful time. Woo!
Yes.
Wasn't that a crazy time? And we
My
are
God.
all so much more relaxed without Trump's tweets. I mean, unbelievable.
Serious.
To know that our country is not actually just being run on Twitter. I mean, it's a great relief.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It was
Absolutely.
insane, totally insane, right? It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But-
And
but there
it's good to see all that finally leave I mean, it's not totally left the media,
No.
but my God, it's not like up to the volume it was then. So
Yeah.
No, but of course it has definitely not left the country, sadly. So we have, we have a real split still in this country, which is a serious problem.
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. It probably will be for a while, won't it?
Let's all get depressed again. Let's just.
Yeah, really.
Well, again, it's awesome to have you back here. There's a lot to talk about today. First and foremost, being your show, Gates McFadden Investigates. Who do you think you are?
Who
And,
do you think you are? I know it's more. It definitely has a bit of a bite on that. Who do you think you are?
I like that, though.
She's just going to grill people. That's all it sounds like.
No.
Well, I'm really excited to dig into that here in just a little bit. But before we do, there are, again, a few things that we didn't get to ask last time around when we had you on that I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to ask now. First of which was that when we had you on, you had said that you had left Star Trek, or excuse me, you had declined the role of Dr. Beverly Crusher twice before you accepted it. And then were let go and then got the role back. And I heard you say, and I think it was an interview that Patrick Stewart had reached out to you and kind of talked to you. And I just know the kind of person I am. If I had been on the fence, been asked twice, declined it twice, said yes, and then, went through all the stuff you went through, I'd have been like, man, are they seriously asking me this again? Are you able to, was it Patrick that actually kind of talked you back into coming to the show? And if so, like, are you able to share with us anything he may have said to you?
Well, it was Patrick who called me, and if that hadn't happened, I probably would not have come back. But I felt, he said it hasn't been the same. Would you even consider coming back? Because I would love it and it would be great. I don't remember his exact words.
Sure.
But then I got a call from the producer. I think it was Rick Berman. The thing is I was told it was because I said to my agent, I want it to be the same role, the love interest of Picard, she's a commander, a high-ranking commander, mother of Wesley, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was, and see, this is the kind of thing that I didn't know enough about the television industry to understand this, but they have to prep scripts so far in advance, and there are people sending scripts. So when I returned on third season, they were Pulaski scripts, really. They were not Crusher character. There was maybe one that someone had sent in, and that was a new writer had put that in. But they were kind of fitting Crusher into, I think, Pulaski scripts for the beginning thing. So it took quite a while for the character to come back. And had I realized it was going to take that long, I don't know what I would have done.
Right.
But it's silly to waste time saying, well, if I'd known, I wouldn't have. Because in the end, it finally did come back to, by the 6th and 7th season, I think the character was very strong again. And there had been some episodes that I particularly loved that were in the 4th and 5th season.
Sure.
But I also had been pregnant, so I was out of a lot of episodes because they didn't want to use it, which I really thought was a shame, because I thought it would have been awesome that she never tells who the father is. Right?
They
Yeah.
made you wear that large laboratory coat.
Well,
the
it
whole
kept getting
time.
bigger and bigger. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I gave birth to, he was 9.5 pounds and almost 22 inches. He's a big boy. He's 6'3" now. Okay.
Oh wow.
Phew.
Okay.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's just what happens. And there's so many things that I didn't understand about just television production. And I think the thing that even when I did Labyrinth, I was very much a neophyte because I had not ever worked on such a high budget production. And, if you're 1 minute late on something, it's costing you.
Right.
And that's quite different from, in theater, yes, that can cost you as well, but you have usually 8 weeks of rehearsal and you can figure things out. Techs are always a nightmare, but you can always figure things out up to then.
Yeah, there's one thing I've always wondered about. There's an interview with Kate Mulgrew, and she said during Voyager and Next Generation that you guys recorded or filmed right across the street from each other pretty much in different studios. And Kate said that they were always really professional in their filming, and they would always hear you guys across the way hooting and hollering like you were having a big party, cutting up and stuff. Is that really true?
Well, Voyager didn't start until I was in Hawaii doing Marker, right? I mean, that was the UPN network. That was their first thing. So we had stopped. We were doing movies. So yes, we were hooting and hollering probably if we were doing something on the set. We were a very tight group. We still are. We have a group text since the pandemic started. And I think in many ways, I feel I've become closer than ever because of just either our age or the fact that ever since the 25th anniversary of Next Gen, when we were all in Calgary, which was this phenomenal get together, people had been working in different areas and living in different places. So it was, while we would still be in touch, we wouldn't be in touch as a group as much, like you'd see
Right.
Brent or you'd see Michael Dorn or we have lunch here, but it was different. And we'd have Christmas parties. We always did that. But now it's like it's great. We sort of are in our daily lives. And that's lovely. But we always have been a naughty, wonderful cast. And we're like a family, we fight, we make up, we laugh, we whatever. But I think we're very loyal to each other because they are incredible people. And I've found that even by doing the podcast, talking to your friends, it's not like you're having a drink sitting on the balcony, of your house, but it still is quite different from doing an interview of somebody who I don't know that well, but I'm asking questions.
Right.
We know each other too well, and so it's great. And it was really a learning, fun experience. And my favorite things are always the unexpected things. And I loved sort of, like with Will, it just turned into a double episode because there were so many things. I tried to cut it down. I just couldn't. We played games. We played Never Have I Ever.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it gets real. And then we asked, ethical questions and we talked about it. It gets very personal and maybe too personal. We'll find out. I'm sure fans will be shocked. Not so much by what they find out about Will Wheaton, but they might be a little shocked about what they find out about me.
Oh boy.
Yeah, really. So we'll see. I decided to just be authentic. Let's just do it. See what happens.
Right.
If you don't try, you'll never know.
Right.
And, and like something came up with Brent where it's like, we've talked about all sorts of things. And then I have one remark that happens and then he goes, well, I don't quite remember it that way. And I'm like, what? And we start talking and it becomes one of the biggest belly laughs I've had in ages. So, you kind of rediscover moments in your life with each other. And
Sure.
it was a great thing.
I'm absolutely excited to hear this
Mhm.
show. You guys, that whole cast of the Next Generation is really notorious for the relationship you guys share behind the scenes. And I'm really hard pressed to think of another show or cast or anything that's really as tight knit as you guys. But I was talking with Brian Volk Weiss, and he was telling about the episodes he listened to. And he goes, I've learned more about these people in these few episodes than I've learned going to 100 different conventions. Just how behind the veil kind of it is, that this is information not many people have heard.
Well, I think also it's interesting. People like Jonathan would say, "Yeah, I haven't thought of that for years or something." Now
Mhm.
he's probably telling every podcaster he knows, but what it that's what's the rich part of this, and they are really amazing people, and so I'm curious always about their stories. Some of them I ask questions I already knew the answers to, and I sort of felt maybe others didn't. So I think I've been finding who I am in these. It's trying to figure out what is the format. Who am I really in this? And as I've said to everybody who's interviewed me, like yourselves, it's been unbearable having to listen to myself. you know, uh, I'm like, oh, but I think you nervously as a host are always trying to keep the ball rolling, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep saying, Gates, they can splice it together. Just relax. Just okay to have silence. But I'm learning, and I've got 14 in the can. So, we'll see. And I'm excited about interviewing other people, and we'll see what happens. I hope people like it, but it, you know, I have no idea if they will or not. But I
I'm
loved
sure
work.
they absolutely will.
Well, I don't know, but I loved that. It was so cool. I want to say something about Brian because he is he's really a surprise to me at this
Mhm.
time in my life, and he absolutely I love the way we talk to each other. It's like so simple. It's like there's no bureaucratic BS. It's just
Right.
straight talking, and he's funny and charming, and he's
Just a great
he's
guy.
he's a great guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
where was this CEO in my life? But
Yeah.
I mean, what a fluke that I didn't trust it. I'm like, Brian, why are you calling me? Why are you? And he's like, no, I want you.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was really cool. So I've been, and I love all the people who I've met at Nacelle. They're really, really terrific people. I
They are.
learned how to do my own sound editing. I edit the episodes, but I have this fellow Thomas Cassetta who's just a dreamboat. Love him. And then he finesses all the edits I've done, and he makes it sound, as good as it can be. Sometimes we had problems because of a Wi-Fi delay and stuff because
Oh,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
but the ones that were in a studio were a lot cleaner.
Sure, sure. I was just asking him about that studio. I'm so anxious. I would love to see the inside of that place because it sounds so glamorous. He said you did get to record a few of the episodes in there, but mostly they were done kind of like what we're doing here just because of the pandemic.
Right, exactly.
Right. Another thing that Brian, I'm sorry, guys. Did you have anything you
No, go
want to throw
ahead.
in quick? I get excited and I keep going. Another thing, though, that I had talked with Brian about was the center seat. 55 years of Star Trek, which is a 8-part documentary. It's going to be on the History Channel sometime in September. The way he was talking, and on one of the press releases, I see that you have an executive producer credit on that. And I'm just very curious because the way Brian talked about it, it's going to be like each episode dedicated to like the different series, going even as far as like phase 2 in the animated series. So as far as your executive producing, was it just on the Next Generation episode, or are you helping produce this whole thing?
I'm involved in all of the whole thing, and I get to use. I mean, it's been great. I can help with contacts. I can help with looking at something, and I had worked with something for Nacelle before, where I gave some feedback, and it was appreciated. And so that's how Brian knew about this. And also, I've been artistic director and directed a lot of theater, and
Mhm.
so I think it's actually something that I'm good at. I actually have a very good eye for editing,
Absolutely.
or making something. What about reversing that order or something like that? So I'm excited to now start really looking at the rough cuts and just giving feedback. It's not that they'll listen, who knows?
Yeah.
But
They'll listen.
again, I'm really, really impressed with how Brian has really let me in and given me control. It's something that really never happened to me in my career. Well, that's not true. That's not true. I had that at the Henson Company. I mean, I would just, okay, great. Here's the stage that's going to be the ballroom. Go for it. Or here's the
Right.
dream child thing or whatever. But it's wonderful when you feel that somebody respects you enough that they're just going to trust that you are going to be an asset
Yeah.
on something.
Yeah,
So
creative control there's something to be said for it. Goes a long way, doesn't it?
well, there is. I mean, you make your own mistakes.
Mhm.
And again, I knew that going into this, that's why I was hesitant. I thought it's not like I had a vision to do a podcast. And podcasts that I myself always listen to are the more investigative reporting thing, where
Sure.
there's a long build up. Someone's been prepping for 2 years on this story, and that I have no skills to do. So I I've learned a lot. I hope that people enjoy it as much as I did, and we'll see what happens. But it's great to try something, even if it fails. It's great to try. It's better than just staying at home during the pandemic and
Yeah.
Not
For
doing
sure.
it anyway.
not doing it. Yeah,
And then just wondering, what if I had tried?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm really
yeah.
looking forward to hearing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Aw.
yeah, I am too, man. It
Yeah.
sounds awesome. But
I say you probably learned a lot more since last time we talked to you, because you weren't too sure, I mean, what the podcast was going to be about. Now you're editing and everything.
Oh yeah. Well, I had to make certain decisions, and I think I wasn't super clear on where to go, and it's just now I do my research just like you guys must do. I mean, I just go back and look at everything that they've done but it's really meant to be about talking about who they are and their lives and stuff. And so I find that interesting. It's just I'm trying to be authentic. I am personally an introvert, so even when I'm doing this, there's always sort of this element of, okay, come on, get the energy together. And there's that performer side, that side.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's better than just being, huh?
Yeah. Inactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to ask you about. I had seen you say, I believe it was at a panel at a convention a few years back, that over the years you have been selling your Star Trek memorabilia to fund your nonprofit artistic ventures. And you said you like to do things to get people to think, move forward, and push the envelope. And I'm just very curious as to what those ventures are. What kind of things are you referring to when you say that?
Well, I think the original, I mean, it was like the first group of stuff I sold was like $100,000, and I put it into building a theater at Atwater Village in Los Angeles, and it's now a 4-theater space. I built it as a 3-theater space because it's very difficult here. You have to work with equity, and they only allowed you 100 seats in a house, so it's hard to make money doing theater.
Right.
Mhm.
And again, it was very much like the podcast. I plunged in. I had never built a theater. I had never been artistic director of a company. And it was a company that was existing, and I was a member of it. There's a company, there's a branch in New York and a branch in LA, Ensemble Studio Theater. So I felt I wanted to do new plays, new work, and I wanted to
Right.
deal with subjects that I thought were really interesting, and not just do family drama things, which I thought there's a lot of that already that we see, but deal with things that are issues about racism, about homophobic um, subjects, people, and just sort of really try to crack it open and get people to think and be more
Right.
tolerant. And look, and one of my favorite plays was a play really about the way we as a culture don't take care of our children. And it was done through, it was kind of this fantastical thing with a lot of comedy. Denise Crosby actually played the lead,
Oh,
and
wow.
she was wonderful in it. And I had a lot of, I had worked with an animator from Portland who was brilliant. And we did it as if it was a child drawing some stuff, and it was about being pushed to perform. And the lead character was Jean-Benet Ramsey, and it wasn't just a direct thing of her life, but there were parts of it that were in there. And then I had a lot of film, and it was one of these things that was kind of magical. I'm really proud of that production. I wish that if I had had more money, I would have definitely, it could have run for a long time, and I would have taken it to New York, because we had this little car that I had found, like you literally could get in it and drive, but it looked like a cartoon. And
Like a clown car.
yeah, and we used it, and we had this long. I changed the whole space of this theater, so you would see these two headlights coming right at you, and you had no idea what it was. Is that a train? Is that a car? It's things like that.
Right.
Um, and it was a little edgier. There were spaces that you would see one space be used as something, and then you turn your head, but when you looked back, there'd be all these people that would have changed it miraculously, and it's now an autopsy room, and you're looking through glass, and you're like, how did that happen? And then meanwhile, 45 minutes into the play, the lead character climbs up this ladder, and there's this little platform that no one ever noticed, and she lifts off this cover, and there is her grandfather on a rocking chair. And it kind of was this commentary of how we just put our old people, just put a cover over them. And that's the kind of thing, edgier. Like, you don't have to understand everything the second it's happening, but you think about it a lot. And it also, as I said, was funny, as well as, and nothing bad actually happens. It's more in your mind what you think might happen.
Man,
a lot
that
of
sounds awesome.
Yeah, that really makes you think things like that. That's great.
Yeah.
It's better when it has more of an impact like that, instead of just watching it and being like, oh, okay, but then
was a
walking
cool
away
story,
and
but
then having to think after.
Like a few days later, thinking about something that happened and having like a that moment, like, oh, maybe,
Well, it also was about how we are voyeurs, and I think we are in this society, because there's so much out there in YouTube or whatever, and you just get caught up in it. Like, oh, let's look at what's happening to Britney Spears. Let's look at this, what's happening. And we can criticize it, but we're part of it. And I think that's one of the things that I really have always tried to do, is have the audience, not in a way that's heavy or something, but just, you are participating. We have something going back and forth right here. It's not just one person. And I think that's really something sometimes we forget. We get so into our phones and our world and we forget how to just look at somebody and be sincere and be truthful.
Yeah. And it's crazy how, like, social media, just phone culture in general, has, really damaged that part of our culture, I guess. You know what I mean? Because
it's complex. There's good things and bad things, and that's what we see, is that so many things, we have to hold contradiction, and so many people don't want to do it. They want to say either that's bad and that's good, but there's always going to be contradiction, and we always have to search for how can we hold both of those things and figure out how to live.
It's always funny. You go to a restaurant and you see a table full of people, and they're not talking to one another. They're all looking at their phone.
Yeah.
And
I was listening to a podcast where someone said his daughter won't keep her face out of her phone.
Yeah.
And the friends she's always texting, when she has them finally over, then her and those friends are sitting texting other people. It's just what you do.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, because even when I went to my very first conventions, I remember, and this is a long time ago, and that was more the fans of the first show who were showing up at that point.
I see.
A lot of people just could barely have eye contact with you, because if you remember, back in the day, computers were like black rooms with all these big machinery, and a lot of these people were nerds, and they were in these rooms, and they weren't used to just looking at someone's face and their eyes. And when you realize how that's happened with dating and the texting and all of the BS that goes, don't respond too fast, or wait a couple days, or there's too many rules, and people just need to be spontaneous, but it's hard because there's so many things that kind of isolate us from just being present.
It sets such a crazy level of unnecessary expectations. Like you said, should I respond now? Should I wait a few days? Just unnecessary anxiety.
Exactly. Exactly. Like we already have enough anxiety.
Yeah,
That's true.
we don't need any more.
No, we don't.
So I need to backtrack to the top of that question right there. You know, you said you'd sold off all the Star Trek memorabilia to make these things happen. Was there any of the memorabilia that you couldn't part with? Was there like an item that like, I've got to keep this?
Well, there's a couple of things. And what was really funny is I was going, I'm keeping it for my son. He's almost 30. And, you know, and so I would walk up and I say, I kept this for you because I thought maybe, oh, I don't care. That's fine. You know, 'cause- you know.
Oh, man.
So I started to realize it was my own narcissism about like, oh, I want this to be so important to him. But he's like,
Yep.
but you see, this is a perfect example. I never had a television. I was mocked by the cast members because I didn't even own a TV. I did
Oh.
not watch stations. We would watch videos on a screen. And he never watched. His first video was when he was age 3.5, actually. That was the first time because I didn't want him to just be inundated with screens and stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
So, and I never showed him the show. So it wasn't until he was much older, like college age maybe, that he started to ever see a show. But he had gone to the filming. He was in my trailer, so he knew Uncle Brent, and he knew that Uncle Brent like had that gold stuff, but then he also knew Uncle Brent without it. The
Mhm.
one who took him the longest was Michael Dorn because
Oh, I'll
he
bet.
was fine with Worf. But you know what? I was the same way too. I first knew Worf, and then I'll never forget. I'm talking to Michael Westmore one day, and this gorgeous black man comes up to the door. You know, he's talking to me and kind of like he's acting like he knows me, and I'm like, well, okay. And then I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "That's Worf." And I said, "What?" You know, it because he doesn't look anything like
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and at that time, I was still commuting, doing the play down in San Diego, so I wasn't around as much that very first couple of months we filmed.
Mhm.
But yeah, and so he took him a little longer. But I have pictures with everyone in our cast. You know, when Jack was born, I remember Jonathan came in once and read him a story in my trailer, and
Hmm.
yeah, you know, so he grew up there, and this is something I've really thought about. So you think you want to share all these cool things that are happening on the set, like when we did the first movie, and that we crashed, and what's the movie where the ship crashes? Is that First Contact? Maybe it's First Contact.
Oh boy.
I
It's
can't
know.
at the end of
That or Generations.
Generations. I believe.
Generation, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So my son's 3. You can tell how much I watch these movies.
Right.
Don't tell anyone. This is
Right.
just between us 4, okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, I take him in because the ship, they've got the fires, pretend stuff happening. And I take him in. I said, there's a pretend crash and they're doing this and everything. And he had grown up on the sets. He learned how to walk on the bridge. Like
Mhm.
when they would be
Wow.
filming somewhere else, we would just practice walking on the bridge. And he comes in and he bursts into tears
Oh wow.
because it was his home that was being burned.
Yeah.
And it didn't even
Oh.
occur to me. And I was like, oh God, what a bad mom. So I said, oh, I'm so sorry. No, this was all pretend. And you know, tried to dig myself out of that one. But that was always a lesson. Having someone who was in that magical stage of life where you look at
Yeah,
everything
right.
Yeah.
And then First Contact, they had a new Enterprise.
That's right. That's
and
right.
he had to probably get adjusted to that.
So this is New Home.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I didn't have a big, you know, I wasn't on set that much that became a deal. But it's interesting how when we were talking about social media, that's why I was talking about the TV and everything. It does make a difference. Like I would have friends of his would come over, and my son could sit for 45 minutes and play the same game. And there's so many friends of his who are like, you know, 5 minutes on this, then they want, what's the next thing? And, you know, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
I do think it might do something to our ability to stay
Definitely.
focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to make sure our kids take time to go outside and play and do real things. Because if they would just sit and look at a screen all day,
Yeah.
if they could.
The constant flow.
Yeah,
constant
and
flow.
you really have to stay on top of that.
Bottomless
especially
flow, yeah.
now. I mean, it's even worse than when we were kids.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So much more.
You know, the movie WALL-E was so amazing.
Yes.
They predicted the whole thing, and
did.
it's so true, isn't it?
is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then when you think about our environment, I mean, that was they were so ahead on the curve. Just the plant, the live green plant,
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to step it up and protect our environment. I mean, it's really, really crucial. It is
Oh,
Even
like,
with the
agree.
whole by and large corporation, that it just being one big thing
Yeah.
running everything. And yeah.
The most disturbing thing about that movie was the humanity laying in the chairs, just kind of floating
know.
around.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, please don't
Couldn't
let
even
this
get
be
up
us.
and move around.
Yeah.
No, they were probably fused to the chairs, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But
But, I've been guilty of binging, during this
Mhm.
pandemic.
Sure.
When you go, God, is there anything else to watch on Netflix or where, you're like,
Yeah. I
Then you-
binged The Next Generation, actually.
well, there you go. And that's
Yeah.
a long binge, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It took about a year. I didn't watch like several episodes a day or anything, but I'd unwind at night, watch an episode. Yeah.
I get into those Danish noir, where I just like it's one one depressing thing after another that happens, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, what bad could happen next? It's like weird. It's like so weird that those are my
Yeah.
favorite.
I get it though. I
Yeah.
get it. It's like,
But I also loved watching French because I speak French, but I always need to learn more. And I love hearing the slang that happens in some of there's a couple of great French ones. The Bureau, which you can watch. I got definitely a whole bunch of people in the cast into that. It's excellent. The Bureau. It's like
Bureau.
CIA kind of stuff.
I've
Really
heard
good.
of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. And also Spirals is really good. The characters, the way they write, I love it. Brett and I really love that. And so no, Brett and I were the ones who really loved that one.
Hmm.
Nice.
I'm going to watch it so I can say that all three of us watch it together.
There you go. See?
Did you guys have anything to?
Man, what is this? These two guys don't have. Didn't you? I mean, where's your pieces of paper with
Well,
like, a lot of questions? Huh?
I'm not a regular member of this podcast.
Oh, I see.
I'm just a friend, and
Okay.
Gates McFadden's coming on, and I'm like, oh wow.
He's a fan. He's
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm here as a
Okay.
fan.
Okay.
Friend. Yeah.
I throw in my 2 cents to keep it rolling.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gates, I don't know if you remember the last time you were on. I had another one of my friends on to speak with you, and I had told you that we knew each other from kindergarten. This gentleman I have also known since kindergarten. We've known each other,
Yeah.
what,
That's
38
so
years
awesome.
now?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. It's been a
That's,
long time. So.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. And we've talked about that. Not a lot of people have the same
No.
friends
No.
for that long, but it just really stuck. Either that or nobody else got us.
We were
or
just
something,
taking
but-
what we could get.
Yeah, right.
That is so remarkable. Was there ever a period where you kind of were like,
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe like right after high school, people start going separate ways for a while, but
It always comes
when
back.
we found our way back, yeah.
wait,
yeah.
but do you live in the same area, or what is the area exactly?
we live about an hour apart,
Yeah, we grew
Oh.
up together though. Yeah.
but yeah, we
Where-
grew up in the
where?
same town.
West Liberty.
Okay, I don't know that.
We're about an hour west of Columbus is where we grew up.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So like I don't know if you know where Springfield or Urbana would be, but West Liberty is just right above that. It's a blip. 3 traffic lights, I promise
All right.
you. You'll miss it.
Okay.
yeah.
So when
So-
you grew up, was it still like unbelievably cool and awesome at 16 to get your license?
Yes.
yeah.
It was
Yes.
everything.
It was everything. It was for me, and I'm much older than you guys. It was like everything, right? You could
Oh, yeah.
blast the radio. Where else could you blast the radio?
Yep.
Right?
Nowhere.
And just the windows down in Ohio, driving those back roads to your
Yep.
best friend's house.
Yep.
Nothing like it. Then you could just
Right.
talk about boys all night. I mean, it was just like the best, right?
Yep. I mean, that was our child. We didn't talk about boys, but that's what we did. Yeah.
Well, but you talked about girls
We
sometimes.
did talk
We
about
did
girls.
talk
All
about
right. Well, there
girls.
you are.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Yeah.
Right.
It's what the hell is that noise?
Somebody's got a lawnmower outside, it sounds
Oh.
like.
Oh, yeah,
And of
lawn
course they
crew.
do. How perfect.
Well,
Can
we
you hear
had
it?
no, it's not. It's fine. I mean, we were doing the cell, and it was so loud, and it was really not a good moment when I was talking to Will. There was like the loudest garbage truck we have ever
Oh,
heard.
no.
I know.
It was just like crazy. Yeah, it was. Well, they had just put this little studio together. It was a very. It was not like big soundproofed, fabulous studio
Sure.
yet.
Yeah.
but it was a work in progress at that point because of the pandemic.
Right,
Mhm,
right.
mhm.
Boy, am I frustrated with that right now.
It's, I mean, can you
Sounds
hear
like I got
that?
a
I can't
boombox
hear
out
it.
there
Okay,
too or
she
something.
can't hear it.
I
I
so-
can't hear
think
it.
we'll be, I'm thinking about the recording. I just hope that these
Yes.
mics don't pick it up. I think we'll be okay though. I'm sorry. Just a few more quick questions here for you before we let you go. Another thing that I just feel so stupid that I didn't touch on the last time we had you, because you
I
had
didn't want
mentioned
to. I didn't want to say anything. I was like, "Boy, is he stupid that he did."
you didn't have to. I was doing it to myself because after we recorded and I was listening to the show, sometimes you just get so caught up in the schedule and everything you have written down that you had
Oh,
mentioned.
believe me, I know.
Yeah, you had mentioned teaching David Bowie his dance steps on Labyrinth, and I was bowled over by it, but at the same time, like, so cool, let's move on, and I just
Yeah.
kicked myself in the ass for that. So, would you mind elaborating on that experience a little bit for us?
Well, I took his hand and I put it on my shoulder, and then I reached for the other hand, and no, anyway.
Nice.
Well, he was an extraordinary artist, and I think I was so caught up in my job. I mean, I was so much to do, and it was all new to me in many ways about all of the big production part. But he was so down to earth and present that it was just like he was anybody else. I mean, really, he was that way. He was open. He was not somebody who was like, "Excuse me, don't talk to me. I'm doing this." He was nice to everybody. He
That's so refreshing
was,
to hear that.
oh, he really was, and I'm sure I was much stranger than he was just really there and wanted to make it great. And there's nobody in the world I know who could have worn the Goblin King outfit like he did and
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
act like it was perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Like just, I mean, on these big high boots and they've got platforms, and I'm like, no, he's pulling it off. I can't believe it,
Yeah.
But see, I didn't understand all about the the camera and stuff. So he was very patient, and I loved working on the ballroom scene. It really was one where I just was very clear of my vision, and uh we had made it so that he was down. You could have been on the set and he would literally disappear. And I got disappointed because they actually did some of the disappearing through edits. And I had actually made it
Oh.
so that he had snuck around. He would do it and you'd go, how could he get over there? So
right.
but again, I think had I been more used to film, I wouldn't have even thought that way. I would have
Sure.
thought, well, of course they'll edit here and then we'll do that. But it was so magical just doing it when you were in the room because he literally
Right.
was agile and moving all around.
You were thinking
Um,
from like a stage
right,
choreography
exactly,
perspective, right?
exactly. And but again, it was fascinating. And there was one time where he came in, he was super tired the next day. And I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm exhausted because we filmed all night. I said, what did you do? He said, well, Mick and I did Dancing in the Streets video last night.
Oh, really?
Oh.
At the same time. Wow.
Wow.
I mean, that's how extraordinary he was,
Yeah.
and he didn't, ask for special treatment. Like I would be going, get me my aspirin. Can I have a couple of people? Can you
Do you
tell
know
the
who I am?
Yes, tell the minions to bring me get me a masseuse. But he wasn't like that at all. And I must say, his last album was so brilliant. He really,
Oh,
Incredible, yeah.
Lazarus or
yeah, Lazarus, just
yeah.
so incredible. He was always curious. I wish I had actually made more of an effort to spend, more time. I was just in my own world
Yeah,
of,
you had a job to do, and that was
whew,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
it's stuff I hadn't really worked with all the puppets and stuff like that much, and so the whole
Mhm.
thing was new to me, and I
How
didn't
cool.
have as much downtime. Yeah,
What an experience.
Yes.
yeah.
What an
To have met
experience.
David Bowie was pretty cool.
Yeah. Bucket list moment right there. Here's an odd one for you. I found this on IMDb and I wasn't able to find reference to it anywhere else. There's a credit on IMDb from 1981, an episode of Saturday Night Live where you are credited as the
So-
woman in the audience kissed by Bill Murray.
Yeah. Is that funny? I don't know who put that on there, but that is very funny. I didn't believe it was me. I said, oh, come on. And then a fan showed me the video. And at first I really didn't. And I went, oh, wait a minute. I knit that sweater. The sweater I had on that night, I knit it. So I recognized the sweater, but I hardly recognized me, but it was me because no one else wore that sweater.
Wow.
And I went, yeah. And then it started to come back. I mean, that's how old I am, folks, right? That
Oh,
I
geez.
forgot something like that because yes, I now then I started to remember it. And so over the last couple of years, I've been going, yeah, I remember who was the friend who brought me. And it has to be the woman who's sitting next to me, but I can't really remember. There was someone I knew who was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that time, I think I was teaching, but it wasn't Rainn Wilson. I mean, I was teaching at NYU. I don't know who got me on that show, but I wanted to sit in the back and they said, no, we want you to sit here. So I was told by my whoever brought me to sit there. And I had gone and met some people backstage and stuff, but then that's when it happened. And I had totally blanked on that whole thing. Isn't that a riot?
Traumatic getting kissed by Bill.
Well, now, of course, no one would probably feel it's PC to do that, to run out.
Right.
That is
Yeah,
true.
really.
Kiss. But
It's just a testament to how extraordinary your life has been when you can have been kissed by Bill Murray and be like, oh yeah, totally forgot about that.
I mean, literally. Well, it was a little scary to me. I'm like, wait a minute, gays. Now remember who your parents are. Remember who, because I thought, how could I not remember that? But
Right.
anyway, it's the truth. And if I had not seen the sweater, I would have still said, no, it's someone who looks like me. Because honestly, they were going, no, that's you. And they were making it look big. And I'm like, no, oh my God, there's that sweater. Oh my God, I do remember that. It was sort of like Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
What's the movie where they would take a part of a bad memory away if you didn't want it there? Eternal Sunshine of the
That's the-
Spotless
yeah,
Mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That
Oh,
was
man,
such a good movie. That was
Yes,
a good
it
movie.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic film. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to throw in?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, I could go on
You guys
probably all
crack me
day
up.
about Star Trek things, but
Sure.
yeah, no. I'm just a big fan of the show, and
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
nice to hear.
yeah. My dad was always watching it when we were kids, and it was always on in the background at my house. And then eventually, as I got older, I started getting more interested. And I remember the night of the series finale, my dad actually let me stay up late on a school night just
Oh,
to watch it
wow.
with him.
Oh, no,
So that's a good memory.
that's
That's cool.
nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do besides the podcast in life? What are you up to?
Well, I'm a farmer of corn and
cool.
soybeans.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. What kind is it? Sweet corn, white corn, mixed corn?
It's just called
Corn.
just yellow corn. It's
Uh-huh.
not the corn you eat.
It's the corn for animals.
It's
Yeah.
livestock feed.
Yep.
Yes, mostly
Okay.
livestock feed is
Great.
yes.
All right. How about you?
I work at a mom and pop print shop, and I have my own 3D printing company.
Ooh, that would be cool to explore 3D printing.
It's fun, and it's
Yeah.
I'm
That's
working
just-
constantly, pretty much.
I really don't believe that it's gender. I believe it's like in your chromosomes, but I was born missing the chromosome that helps you read directions. Like,
Mhm.
this is how you do work the app, and this is how you plug in your
Yes,
TV,
right.
and this is, I'm so awful. I either look at the directions backwards or I make the mistake and then I look at the directions.
Yeah.
And everybody, my son is like, what is wrong with you? Like most people lay all the pieces out. So I have something that's missing in my DNA.
Yeah.
But
I'm that way too. And,
I love people and admire people who actually can do
Mhm.
that. And,
Sure.
I would not be, the Mark Twain Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I would be able to show them very little. I could do some good movement things for them. I would not be showing them electricity, I don't think,
Right.
sadly.
Instructions are reference material. That's all it is. It's not. It's not how tos.
It's if you can't figure it out yourself. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
don't
but I
start
mean-
with the instructions.
Yeah, but
No.
my son's dad always liked to take things apart to see how they work,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if I did that, it would just stay on the table for like months. I wouldn't like, well, how do you put that back together?
Yeah.
I've always been that way too.
Yeah.
I got very adventurous about 5 years ago. I had an old Nintendo Entertainment System. I thought, I think I can pull this apart and maybe get it working. And it ended up just a bucket of screws, boards, and plastic. And I ended up just throwing it away because there was no way it was going back together.
Yeah, you're my kind of guy. There you are right there.
Well, Gates, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. And I want to remind all of our listeners to check out Gates McFadden Investigates. Who do you think you are? I cannot wait to listen. So thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much. You're absolutely gorgeous. Look at you.
Oh, stop it. Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
Gates.
you guys. We'll talk later. I hope
Okay.
that sometime, I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for having me.
Really looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Don't
Thanks,
be too
Gates.
shocked. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been a Canned Air production.